Oh, the red couch. If you don't know what this is, you shouldn't be watching this podcast. That's just what it is.
Now you
I'm
need a
your
squirt
host.
bottle.
Yeah, I know. You're right. I'm going to put it right here. And hopefully, now that people have seen it, they know. So we'll get that going. I am your host, Jay Chadwell. With me is Calvin. We're going to tackle episode 2 today. But Calvin, you were commenting on your wardrobe choice. What were you saying?
Lack of Friends apparel. I can't believe I don't actually own a shirt. I need to fix that. I feel like a fraud. I don't own anything other than the sets.
This couch is the first thing I found. But and obviously it's part of a Christmas Village theme. But they also have a Central Perk as well. Obviously the Christmas Village. Yeah. So
yeah.
That is the next purchase. Once we monetize this and this baby takes off, I'm getting Central Perk. You're getting a shirt. I'm getting Central Perk building. So,
I might get a shirt during the episode.
That's true. Man, that's true. I can't believe I don't have a shirt either. Not even the rip-offs of you can, the dots was what you were saying,
right.
The little dots of
yeah.
even basketball or something like nothing.
Right.
I don't have anything
Nothing.
like that. Such a scrub. All right, so
Yep.
episode 2 is the one with the sonogram. Now, at the end of last episode, of our first episode, I gave you a little taste of these trivia questions. Do you remember the answers?
I remember the one answer.
But that's going to be more than you had at the end of last episode, so we're good there. So we are going to... We're going to revisit them. I didn't change. I told you I wouldn't. I said and we've had enough time pass that you could have forgotten them by now. So Here we go. This is the one I imagine you know. How much did Ross? Is this the one you know? How much did Ross and Monica's dad say that Rachel's parents spent on her wedding?
Oh, that one was the 40,000.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
The 40,000. He says, I'm not going to tell you how much they spent on the wedding, but 40,000 is a lot of money. And he was correct. He didn't
that
tell
is a lot
them.
Of money.
And it's a lot of money. He did not
That's
lie
a lot
that
of
whole
money
time.
in the 90s.
Yeah. What's the inflation on that? It's probably a $100,000
It's got to
wedding.
be over 100. Yeah, for sure.
All right. What did Chandler say that ugly naked guy had brought home? And again, this is the first mention we have of ugly naked guy.
There's a Stairmaster or something.
Oh, you're so close. It's something master.
Thigh
And it's
Master.
something to do with legs. There you go.
Yeah.
Thigh master.
Yeah.
You ugly naked guy brought home a thigh master, which they all
Yep.
went to. Yeah. Okay, so something I'm just now thinking about. I don't know why. This is not on our script that I have. I just now really thought about this. When ugly naked guy first gets mentioned in the series, okay, and they mention him several times before you see him, what kind of figure or character did you build in your head of who he was, and did the character they put into the sitcom fit what you thought?
Was spot on. I felt like I had seen
Really?
him in my head before they actually showed any part of his body or back or anything like that. That was spot on. Him holding a big gulp was one of the
Classic.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had in my head.
Ugly naked guy would have a big gulp. For me, it's not. I thought he was going to be taller because he's really short.
Mm-hmm.
He's good amount shorter than Ross. Of course, Ross is tall, but and then he was definitely hairy. And I don't know. My ugly naked guy that I had in my head was not. He was not short and he was not hairy. So I guess I'm the weird one. You thought the same way.
So
as the
he was ugly mediocre guy. He wasn't ugly naked guy. He was mediocre naked guy.
Yeah, he was tall, mediocre, slightly overweight guy. That's what I had.
Yeah.
You had
Not a bad place to
guy. No. Little dad bod, you're fine. He's got a thigh master. He's doing all right.
He's
got an apartment that everybody wants.
Yep.
It's fine. All right, here's the tough one. the first two names that Carol and Susan say that they, for boy and girl, of what they are going to name the child.
And the only thing that sticks in my head is for the girl, it's Helen. But
Which is still incorrect.
I was gonna say that's not the first one. That's when they're like debating it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna know this one.
It's Minnie.
Minnie.
When you hear
That's
Minnie,
right.
you think mouse, and then Marlin. Marlin and Minnie. So the one with the sonogram, and I think I say this in my notes. I reviewed the show, but I didn't review my notes. But this is it's actually right here, so it doesn't even matter. So another opening in the coffee house is how episode 2 starts off, and then they're using metaphors to talk about why men think women are better and why women think men are better, and like obviously they're just like, one of the things Phoebe says is like, how can men treat women so badly that like
and then not even care.
and right away I'm gonna just show too much of my person. Like, this should be about Friends, but I'm gonna show too much about my big joke to like some of my players. For you guys that do not know, I am a basketball coach, and my big joke to some of my players is like, yes, I have a wife, but I also have 6 girlfriends, because I never I never had the courage, because I hate that whole rigmarole. Like, you're literally sitting there talking about, well, you know, I don't like you anymore as much as I do, so I don't want to date you anymore. And it's such a hard, awkward conversation.
Yeah.
My wife is sitting right behind me. I don't really have 6 girlfriends still, just to clear the air. But it's funny to me, and again, throughout the Friends series, you can relate to so much, and I think that's another thing that makes it so popular. But it's funny to me when I hear that now, like, okay, well, I'm not the only guy in the world that has trouble breaking up with people. So that whole like back and forth is really, really cool, and that one was something that stuck with me a little more.
And Joey just saying, you know, just stop calling.
Yeah, stop calling. So Joey has a bunch of girlfriends too, like me. Joey probably actually never made the commitment to have a girlfriend.
He never made
probably
it to that, or at least not very often did he make it cross that threshold to call a girlfriend.
Who's the first one on the show? I think they kind of visit that he had a girlfriend, but I don't know if he was like serious. But who's the first one that you remember him actually like liking? Like, not that he went on multiple dates with, but that he was like, in his head, he's like, I could have a future with this person. Do you remember? Or at least the one I think it is.
It's got to be before Rachel, right?
It is before Rachel, correct.
I don't know.
It's when Rachel is living with Joey. I will say that.
Janine?
Do what?
Janine?
No. How is Rachel living with Joey if Janine's living with Joey?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Valid point.
It's I forget her name. She was one of the characters on Sex and the City, but like Joey's like, just give him pancakes and send him out like that. That's the and he likes her, but she ends up not liking him back.
Yeah,
because she's exactly like him.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, because he comes home and she turns around in the chair and he goes, "Oh."
He's like, "Who's your friend?" "Oh, hey, you're still here."
System broke down, huh?
Yeah, that's the first time I remember Joey actually like, and again, we'll cover that when we get to it, but like Rachel and Phoebe convince him, and then he likes her, and see, that's why you don't mingle with, don't play Cupid. Don't play Cupid.
Don't play Cupid. But
that's how you end up with 6 girlfriends.
Episode, though, the P standing up, that's a that's a big one.
Yeah, especially like vacation, like you can't get to the next exit, and you're at this, you know, toilet that's never been cleaned since it was open, and you're like, I'm glad I don't have to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Yep, that is
It's unfair.
That is unfair. I'm glad I'm not. Yeah, that's unfair. So it then flashes to Ross being at the museum. That's when we meet Carol for the first time. Coincidentally, we meet that Carol for the last time because she's a new character the next time we see her. But
it's the same with Susan, right? No, Susan is the same.
Susan's throughout. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she tells Ross that she's pregnant, which, and again, early good stuff is Ross like doing that freeze. And like he can't believe, yeah, and it's like the same as the caveman right next to him, which just shows like men have not grown. Maybe maybe we've done different stuff, but our maturity is not
definitely
grown.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So Carol comes in and gives that news. Back at Monica's, she is over cleaning at that point. Like she's fluffing the pillow too much, and she's doing this, but this, and that. Why? Do you remember why she's like completely over the top on cleaning? Who's coming over?
Her mother, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Her parents, but yeah, specifically her mother.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when Phoebe tells Monica that she is scaring her. Which, before I talk about why that particular, like, oh, Monica, hey, you're scaring me. Before I talk about how I feel about like literally that line, do you have any like kind of input of Phoebe saying that to Monica on like if it makes sense to you or not? And I know I'm phrasing that question horribly. Don't get me wrong, I get that, but just that Phoebe's interaction with Monica at that point.
It does make sense to me, but only really in a playful way. Of you're going a little bit off the deep end. Like you're scaring me. Not that it's actually scaring her, or that she can't handle the cleaning or anything like that. But just
I mean, I guess like if you take it at face value, that's how I would say it. But I'm looking at it as in what we learn about Phoebe and Monica's relationship is the fact that they lived together for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Monica's Monica. Through and through. I feel like Monica's one of the ones that doesn't change a whole lot throughout the show. So if you live with Monica for 3 years, what are you going to pick up pretty quickly?
They're going to be the cleaning mannerisms.
Yeah, that she's going to be cleaning. So the fact that Phoebe says, hey, you're scaring me, doesn't make any sense to me because she has seen it for
true.
3 years.
She's already been to the point where she moved out without Monica knowing.
Correct. Like, exactly.
Alert.
Like, again, if you have not watched Friends, don't watch this because spoilers everywhere. Go watch it, then come back and visit us. We'll still be here. But yeah, you're right. She moves out, and she was afraid to tell Monica, and it was because she was. I forget how she phrased it, like obsessive or cleaning. I forget how she says it or something like that. But it does and again, there's several things that we'll talk about as we go. But it doesn't make sense that she says you're scaring me when you moved out because you knew who Monica was.
Yeah.
At this point, Chandler puts another sarcasm line down, which he does. Episode 3. I'm pulling for the guy. Episode 3. And then this is the first mention of Ugly Naked Guy with his thigh master. And then this is when Rachel comes into the apartment and she has lost Barry's ring because she's going to give Barry his ring back at that point. And she had lost it. So she goes through all of her steps, which just side note. When people say like, where's the last place you remember having it? I'm on board with that because you're trying to retrace your steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't like is when people are like, well, it'll be the last place you look. And here's why.
Obviously.
Why would you keep looking?
Exactly.
If you found it. So, yeah, that's literally the last place I look because I found it and I'm not going to keep looking for it.
It would be so much different if it's like you phrase it and it was the last place I had thought to look.
It would make a lot more sense.
It was my last option, basically. It was the last thing that I would have even thought to check.
Yeah.
But the last place I looked is yes.
It gets on my nerve. And it's like the same thing with like I could care less. like when they're trying to say like they don't like, well, if you could care less, that means you could care less about something else. But you're trying to say this is I couldn't care less is what you were trying to say.
Right.
But whatever. It's as I said, side note. So Rachel lost Barry's ring. Do you remember where they do end up finding it?
I don't. I feel like under the couch is too.
It's a food item.
Oh. No? That's the quiche. That popped in my head.
Yeah, that's Monica's nail with the quiche. That's where your mind's at right now.
I don't.
It's lasagna.
Lasagna, because that's when
Monica made lasagna.
Joey and Chandler sit down and goes, "That's not how you look for a ring in a lasagna."
Correct. So Rachel lost Barry's ring in the lasagna, as Chandler would say it. Lost the ring in the lasagna. Monica gets upset, and then dude, just to show how we're on the same page right here, my notes literally says Monica gets upset, but does the same thing with her nails in a later episode. So, which is, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, go ahead. You got something.
She was catering for her mom.
Yeah.
On that episode. And so it's like
Correct.
In both instances of her cooking for her mom, it got ruined because something dropped in the food.
It has that, but then it also has like Monica is kind of like her mom vibe because she gets upset with Rachel for doing this, and then Monica's mom doesn't get upset, but she had planned for her to mess up, kind of thing,
right?
On that later one, so it kind of does it kind of gives that vibe like Monica, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree,
exactly.
Things like you can get upset about it,
daughter.
Right? Who are you getting upset about? So. And then Ross shows up to tell everybody the news that Carol is pregnant. I believe I was only half watching them, to be honest, but I believe the little detail is again he does his like depressing high.
Oh.
Yeah, which is 2 for 2. And again, I don't remember them doing that a whole lot in the later episodes. Did they do that, or did I have that off?
I think they call back to it a couple of times, like just in a joking manner, but I don't think it's like really in context.
Yeah, I don't think so either, which is crazy because it was like his character's word at that point.
Effectively twice, and then that's just stuck.
Right. And then they're...
Let's pay attention to it.
Correct. And then they're all trying to comfort Ross at that point, except for Joey, because he is like eating the lasagna at that point. So like it's kind of quiet, and then you hear like the fork on the glass, which is a couple things. One, it's funny because that's who Joey is. Like, you know, what words of wisdom is he going to share that Monica and Chandler and even Rachel aren't at that point? It's not like he's bringing anything to the table.
No. He's bringing just like not words of wisdom, but almost a comforting nonchalantness.
Yeah, like it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
I'm just over here eating lasagna, and you're worried about somebody being pregnant.
Things get better.
And then, you know, looking back at the show, do you remember what year the first season was?
93, wasn't it?
I knew it was early 90s, but I didn't remember how early.
It was 93, 03.
Looking at it in 2024, post-COVID, right? Joey is eating this lasagna that Chandler and Phoebe just bare hand dug in to find a ring that was also... And Joey's just like, I'm eating it.
Yeah.
Food is food, which is like kind of his like. Remember when Rachel is living with him, and go ahead.
Well, it might be different, but when Rachel makes the dessert, he's the only one that's just like chowing down on it and not thinking.
Dude, that's so funny you just said that, because I just saw something this week that I was going to talk about when we got to that episode. But since you brought it up, I'll do it. So Joey was on the Graham Norton show. Have you seen those clips? He's an England guy, but they're like somebody on his show is like, or one of his. It's a talk show, and one of his crew members is a big Friends fan. So they have the cast on quite a bit as separate, not all together as one. But Joey, Matt LeBlanc was on, and they were talking about that scene, right? So they were doing the scene, and the food item was like bananas and whipped cream. It wasn't gross at all, but obviously. So they're doing this scene, and you know the part in that scene where Rachel like tries to take it from Ross, and then Ross is like, no, and he like scoops in his mouth, as fast as possible. Well, during the first shot of that, it was too much, and he started laughing. Like Ross started laughing, and he spit it all back up. So then they're getting ready to do another take, and they're not really paying attention. And Ross is like, well, this is too much. And Joey didn't see him spit it out. I don't want to keep on going back between Matt and Joey. So just Joey didn't see him spit it out. He's like, I'll take care of it. And he like dumps some on his plate. And nobody told him. Nobody said that Ross had just spit this out. So Joey is like, so they go through and they do the scene, and he eats it just like the scene you see. So they're at this like, I don't know if they're at an award show or whatever they're at, but they're showing bloopers, and this scene starts coming up, and like Joey's like, oh yeah, this was funny. Wait till you see Ross spit this up, and then it shows him like eating the spit up food, and he's like. It's the first time he realized that what he did, and nobody told him. So it's really funny that you just brought that up.
I've seen the blooper, though.
Yeah, it's so gross. Yeah, I've never seen the blooper, but I was also talking about like Joey's love for food is Rachel dropping the spaghetti on the floor, and he picks it up, and he's like, well, it's still food.
Don't waste it. Yeah.
We don't waste it. And then also when he's trying to not share the food with his date, and he like moves
Joey
his
doesn't
plate
share
around.
food.
Yeah, and he like moves his plate over, and it drops on the floor. And he's like, there's just certain rules about food that you gotta know. And he picks it up off the floor, blows off the crab cake, and eats it. Like, you don't share food, but eating it off the floor is completely
Don't waste it. Don't waste it. It's all about making sure it goes down into his belly at all costs.
Certain rules. Yeah, so they dug in that, and then Joey ate it, which is post-COVID. I mean, even pre-COVID, so gross, but post-COVID, like really gross. So then later, Mr. and Mrs. Geller show up. I thought when and again, doing a little bit more deeper dive into the episode than just watching it for enjoyment like we have in the past, I thought her mom was a lot more terrible to her than I had originally realized. It's like everything Monica does, her mom's on.
Absolutely.
So it's like, and I think they even tone it down. I think it was like too much to the point where they like toned it down in the later episodes. But yes, it's like she's like complaining about the food, and then she like fluffs the pillow that Monica just
finished fluffing. Yeah.
And then like they're talking at dinner, and they're talking about Rachel, like that she's not there because she's giving Barry back the ring, and the mom's like, well, at least she had the opportunity to run out on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just...
That's aggressive for a mom to say to, at this point, what, they're 24? Something like that. Like, that's aggressive to say to a daughter.
Severe baby fever, like grandbaby fever is what she's got. But then, well, I guess she doesn't know at this point. She doesn't know that Carol's pregnant. So, yeah, so, like, you're right, very passive-aggressive. Like, at least she had the opportunity. But, I feel like her mom made as many sarcastic remarks as Chandler at that point. But again, they were, not to be funny, they were just like very, very passive aggressive.
Yeah.
So, and then the dad is trying to help, like Monica, and he like, I forget how he says it verbatim, but he's like pretty much like it's okay to be you. And he's like, some people like need to be loners and losers, but you have people like Ross that need to go for the gold and everything, and it's like you feel so bad for her because her mom's obviously aggressive. Her dad is just clueless.
Clueless. That's the thing. It's not even like intentional. It's just like he thinks he's comforting, and he is not comforting.
No, not at all. And it makes it 10 times worse because Ross is like the obvious favorite,
right?
And successful, like obvious favorite and successful. So then at that point, Monica's just overwhelmed, and she like persuades with physical violence because she like digs his elbow into his wrist or something like that, to tell the parents about the Carol situation, because I don't even know, I forget how he said it, but like they didn't even know he was split up at that point. I think they knew she moved out, but I don't think that they like realized the specifics.
Yeah.
I guess common sense would tell you why somebody moved out of but I don't think they knew the specifics. So they say like he's like, Mom and Dad, she moved out. The reason she moved out is because she met a woman, and now they're together, and they are going to be raising my child. So he like tries to save Monica, and he goes through the whole like, this is what's going on in my life. Go ahead.
And then the mom says, and you knew about this?
Yeah.
It's like, God.
You kind of think like, okay, Ross saved her at least for the moment, and it's like, okay, well, you knew this and you didn't tell us.
Yeah, it was like half a second of thought she was going to be in a reprieve, and then just targeted again.
Yeah, and this ends up being a common theme, which I think they do a lot better as they go on, because again, this was very aggressive towards Monica early, but it's a very common theme as it goes on.
I think it's part of character development too. Of they're growing up. The mom is going to mellow out a little bit. Right. Monica's also going to, not that she didn't have her stuff together, but Monica is going to, I don't know how to say this without sounding offensive, catch up to Ross, get her own success.
Right. Yeah, run her own race at that point. But yeah, it's a common theme that that is correct, and that they're always going to side with Ross over Monica, even if it's like subconsciously they still will, because like even later on and down the road, and Ross really plays into it as well. It's not like he like come on, treat us equal. He like he loves being the favorite, but later on when like they're trying to tell their parents that Chandler and Monica are together, and Ross got caught smoking, and he blamed it on Chandler. Like they're like, he could never do it, kind of thing. So yeah, it's funny how they do tend to like Ross a little more. So so later in the coffee house, Rachel is closing up, and then again, like it's like I know we talked about this last episode as well, but it's like she went from not having a job, I'm shopping for boots, I'm using my parents' credit card, till she had a job. And I remember she did anybody could serve coffee, I know that, but there was I don't expect her to be an interview process, but at least say well, maybe I should get a job here. There was none of that. It was one scene she didn't have a job, the next one she had an apron serving coffee. That's how it was. But so then Monica says, and I think this, and again, I'm not a huge fan of this episode. I don't think it's one of their better ones. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think any of their episodes are really bad, but this would probably rank towards the bottom of all of them, which we'll see. We're going to have the list. We're going to have all of the list. But I do think this line is really funny. They talk about parents, parents, how do they, blah, blah, blah. And Monica's like, if I could change parents with anybody in the world, I would want Ross's parents. Which is just so funny, because you see the way she gets treated, and it makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Makes total sense. It's obviously it's a funny clip, but I want Ross's parents. I love my parents, but for Ross's parents.
Oh my gosh. Because it's two different set of parents. It really is.
Yeah.
This is when Phoebe finally reveals that she has a twin. And then everybody leaves after they're talking, and then it's just Ross and Rachel in the coffee house because Ross went to go pee, and then everybody left him. And then he comes back out and he's like, how long was I in there? But this is where you kind of see again the spoiled side of Rachel, because Ross offers to help her, and in Rachel's mind that means you're going to do everything.
Do it. Yep. She's gonna sit right down, prop her feet up, start reading a magazine, and it's gonna be taken care of.
Yeah, and she, and to her credit, he did it.
Yep.
She was correct in assuming that. But then Rachel then asked Ross if he thought he would meet someone and fall in love, which is, ironic at that point because it's the people that are going to end up together. But then Ross says, like, I forget how he says it, but he says yes. Like yeah, he thinks he's going to meet somebody. And then he, like, stares at Rachel as she's, like, laying her head back on the couch. And again, more overabundance of foreshadowing. Like, there is a lot of very direct foreshadowing in these first couple episodes of the Friends sitcom. But again, he was right. So, but yeah, that whole scene. Go ahead.
She lays her head on his hand, and that's just like something that can, as a guy, relate to heavily. Is that if your wife's got her legs up on your legs, her legs are going to sleep or they're bending backwards or something, it's fine. Just let it happen. Yeah. And so, like, she lays her head on his hand, and he has to, like, reach way back and grab a stool so he can sit there without moving.
Right, because he doesn't want to disturb her. Yeah, and it also with those two, it breaks the touch barrier between them as well, because it's like a meaningful touch, especially to Ross more than it is. Rachel's kind of just laying back, but Ross, as you're saying, doesn't want to disturb her in that moment. Yeah, just off the record, like when me and Meg are laying down, she's like right there, and my arm starts going to sleep. You got to do the tuck and roll, or the hug and roll. That's what it's called. The hug and roll. Oh, by the way, women talk. Just kidding, babe. Never hug and roll you. Always cuddle. So then they head to the OBGYN is the next scene. And then we meet Susan for the first time. So we meet Carol and Susan for the first time in the same episode. That could be a good... I should ask that trivia question, because that's actually a good trivia question. Do you meet Carol and Susan in the same episode? But you do. Ross is very awkward in this whole thing. He's like playing with all the like.
Be, though.
Yeah.
Especially when it's fresh as it is.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I didn't even really kind of think about that, but and everything is fresh. Like the fact that she left you is fresh. The fact that she is a lesbian and you married her is fresh. The fact that she's pregnant is fresh. Like, there's a lot of fresh information.
Yeah, it has to be super fresh because she is pregnant and finding out for the first time. That means they had sex not terribly long ago while they were still together. So it's, anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks?
Yeah. Very, very fresh for all three. Yeah. All three life-changing information that he got. All three pieces of life-changing information. So he's awkward. He's playing around with all the like modules and the information and everything that you shouldn't be playing around with in there. But then you can see the dislike between Ross and Susan. And something I've never really understood in this whole thing is I can understand why Ross doesn't like Susan. Not that it's Susan's fault. I'm not saying that, because it's obviously not anybody's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's what Carol wanted. But I can understand why Ross had a dislikeness towards Susan, because guy or girl in that situation, you're the reason I'm not with my wife anymore.
Right.
But I've never understood why Susan disliked Ross.
I don't know. The only thing that I can think of is that there is a quote accidental permanent tie now. There can't be a clean cut. But still, it's a
Why would that make you dislike him?
yeah.
I've never really understood that. Like, and as later episodes show, there's a very strong. Now it gets better, but early it's a very strong dislikeness between them.
Yeah.
But so then, well, something I should touch on that I don't have in my notes that I should have touched on, but like part of the conversation that Ross and Rachel were having while they were alone in the coffee house was Rachel dreading the next day because she was taking Barry's ring back.
Yep.
And she's trying to get advice, and he's saying that like, well, be careful because he's just going to be a shell of a man, like of who he was. Because a couple reasons. One, because Ross likes Rachel so much that I think he's kind of like picturing how that would be if you lost Rachel or he lost Rachel. And two, he literally did just get divorced or separated as well, so he's living it.
Yeah.
So he's literally talking about correct. So he's literally talking about how he's a shell of himself. So he's like he's amplifying it up because of how long he's had a crush on Rachel anyway. So then Rachel walks in. Barry is not a shell of himself. He's like the best version of himself right now.
Happy, tan, plugs.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything that she wishes he was
right
2 weeks before. But she finds out that him and Mindy, which obviously Mindy is her best friend, maid of honor, correct? She's maid of honor. Yeah. So, Mindy maid of my honor, Mindy. Yeah. So, he did get plugs. He got contacts. He's looking tan because he went to, was it Aruba?
Aruba, yep.
Okay, so he went to Aruba with Mindy. So that's why he's looking tan. So, Barry, I'm not a huge fan of Barry. Like, and I think that's how the show makes him. Like, they make him unlikable.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like a piece of fill in the blank, whatever you want to say, at that point. And he can get away with it because he's got money, too.
Yeah.
Like, he can buy a lot of the plugs and, Aruba and, they portray Rachel and her friend group to be very gold diggerish, money hungry. Yeah. So, like, obviously, Barry's going to thrive. Yeah. Correct. He's going to thrive in that friend group. So, I don't know. They make him not likable, and obviously do a good job of it because I do not like him. I'm not a Barry fan. I'm not a Barry fan at all. So then we go back to the doctor office with Susan, Carol, and Ross. And this is when Ross is like getting upset, and he's like, because they talked about the names and everything, and you're right, they do talk about Helen Geller, which is, I mean, such a good joke. Like, it's so well done.
Good.
It's such good writing. But then he like starts to say, this is just too the doctor walks in and says like, is everything okay? And she's talking like specifically to Carol, and like Susan and Ross are like, well, but she's like, well, I was talking to the mother to be, but and then Ross says like, this is just too difficult. I can't be a part of this family. And if you are blessed with children someday, Calvin, you're going to be a great dad, so I hope you will be. What you were going to find out is how quickly they found the baby's heartbeat. Not true at all. Like, they don't walk in and next 2 seconds find the heartbeat. So Ross would have been way out the door after he said, this is way too difficult to be a part of. But for the sake of the sitcom, they needed it to happen.
So 22 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take minutes, but it does take a second.
No, the episode, only 22 minutes, so you got to...
Oh, yeah, it's true. Yeah, got to cut out some parts somewhere. But then again, you'll experience this too. like the first time you do hear the heartbeat of your to be child is life changing. And I can't really describe it. And I don't know. It's like all emotions of happiness and love rush to you at the same time of panic. Like,
I was gonna say
this is going to be a child
terror.
I'm responsible for, and I am way not mature for this. This is, who let me be a father? This is ridiculous.
I did not fill out an application process.
Yeah, this is, man almighty. So, but yeah, but Ross turning around and wanting to be a part of it then makes total sense because it's an unbelievable experience. Then we're heading back to Monica's apartment. Ross is happy, showing off the sonogram to the gang and everything, and Phoebe, Chandler, and Joey don't take it very seriously, which I can see Chandler and Joey not taking it seriously. I'm kind of surprised Phoebe didn't, but then again, I guess Phoebe doesn't really take a lot of things too serious.
Yeah, it's just kind of the aloof side of the personality there. There's just a lot of lightheartedness in most aspects.
Yeah. So then Monica's crying because she's going to become an aunt. Which again, like, I know I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but you know, a lot of characters change, and Monica changed too. I'm not saying she didn't, but Monica's family values are literally throughout the whole 10 seasons of like wanting to be a good aunt, wanting to be a good sister, wanting to be a good daughter. She just doesn't really have a great opportunity there early, and then obviously yeah, correct, and then wanting to be a mother on down the road. So it's really cool to see that her emotions with, you know, and obviously being an uncle or an aunt is a lot different than being a mother or father, but still very overwhelmed with joy at that process. So
yeah.
And then we in the same shot we hear Rachel calling Mindy, and then I forget, I can't say it word for word because I didn't write it down, but she's standing over by the window. I can see the scene, and she's talking about like how she hopes Barry and Mindy will be very happy together, and she's like, and I hope that your children get his hairline. Is it his hairline and your nose?
Yeah. His
That's
old hairline,
your
and
original
old
nose.
Yeah,
old. Correct.
Yeah, she said old hairline and old nose.
Correct. Which proves that with one, it proves something that Mindy and Rachel again are very money hungry, because who has money to spend on plastic surgery to get a new nose? Because Rachel did too. But two, her saying that makes no sense at all because she had the same nose.
Right.
Like she, whatever Mindy, I'm guessing it was very like close, but like, how can Rachel make fun of somebody's nose when Rachel had a nose like she had with the flashbacks?
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense to me that you can hate on somebody like that.
I guess it makes sense in the sense of she knows how much she hated it, and she just wishes
that's a good
upon
point.
them. Yeah.
Like when she, like if and when her and Barry would have kids, or even kids in general with anybody, like, I hope they don't get my old nose. So then you say that because you know it's a fear of yours. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
I guess that makes a lot more sense. But it does prove that they both have some money, that they're able to get that surgery, and it proves why Barry's such a stud with Mindy and Rachel, and I'm sure more in their friend group, because he just doesn't seem like a very good person.
Nope.
he seems like the wine guy, Paul the wine guy.
He is Paul
the
wine
wine guy
with more money.
And Barry the ortho. Correct. They belong to the same men's club. Guaranteed.
That's right.
But that is the end of the episode. So, episode recap, again, continuing to it's early, so it's continuing to develop characters. You know, the first episode was so much on the 6 characters, which obviously should have been. Second one was still a lot of them, but we did meet, you know, the parents, and we met Susan, and we met Barry, and we met Carol. Couldn't think of her name. Jeez. So it's definitely progressing the tree of all the characters while still progressing the 6 characters themselves.
Yep. A lot of introductions, a lot of still bringing in background. I think that was one of the reasons that they were that aggressive with like Monica's mom. You gotta set the tone, because if that's gonna be a theme throughout the entire series, you gotta come in pretty hard with it. So
yeah, like kind of like the old like coaching like mindset of like I have to break you down before I can like build you up kind of thing. So
yep.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that was Monica's mom breaking her down. And
yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, she did a pretty good job of it.
She did a good job.
She did a pretty good job of it.
Yep.
So I'll open the floor for you for the episode rating. What do you got here for the episode rating?
I think it's got to be like, it's necessary. I'm gonna give it like a 4.5 because it's like a utility
45.
episode.
Remember, we're doing 100. We're doing 100.
45.
So 45?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because it's very necessary. You got to do introductions. You got to set tones, but it still wasn't like a blown away episode. But it was useful. So I don't want to give it like a 2, but 4.5.
Yeah,
45.
2 out of 100 would be rough.
Yeah.
I would say that would have been our bottom episode.
That would have been the bottom episode.
I had mine written down already as well. I had 45. We're exactly the same because I agree. I think it is a extremely necessary because it sets up the Susan, Carol, and Ross dynamic. It sets up the Monica and her mother dynamic. It sets up the Rachel and Barry dynamic. It does set up a lot of things that are necessary. Yep. That later episodes have a payoff because of it. But that doesn't change the fact that this episode, while necessary, wasn't exactly like an episode that you would reach back and think, oh, that was one of my favorite episodes.
Yep. Totally agree.
But yeah, it was not like it wasn't well done. It just wasn't great. And it's still only episode 2, so they're not at the peak of their acting career.
Absolutely not.
At that point.
Absolutely not.
So yeah, that was episode 2 in a nutshell. Any final thoughts on the whole episode? I know you kind of did with the recap, but any final thoughts on that episode?
Not on the episode, but we did talk about doing this Giffle thing.
Oh yeah.
So, do you want
to? What's it called? I'll do it right. We'll do it live.
It's Giffle Friends, or Giffle if you pronounce it weird.
I think it is. Yeah, because those are Giffle Friends. Have you done it yet?
I haven't done it yet, but I know what it is.
Let me turn the light off so that you can see. So, what this is, and we'll do this every time we record an episode. So what this is unless we obviously record 2 in one night, but you have to guess based on the scene what episode it is. Oh, my foot's falling off. What episode it is. And I actually have done a little better than you on the ones we've gone head to head. I can tell you this is the beginning of a season. I do remember this. So this is episode 1 of something, and I don't remember.
So I have a hard time with seeing a scene and saying what season is that in. I can tell you the scene before it, I can tell you the scene after it, I can tell you all that. So what I have to do is, when you start typing it in, you say like SO something, and then it'll bring up all the episodes, and you can read them, and then that's how I start to narrow it down. I'm like, okay, I know it's before this, I know it's after this, I know it's before this.
There we go. Have you done it yet?
Got it. Yep.
I got it on the first try. Yeah, you did too. So,
yep.
I did originally, full transparency, I originally did type in season 5, and then it said the one after Ross says Rachel, and I knew that wasn't correct, so I went back to season 4, and the title gives it away. What was the title? Something with jellyfish.
The one with jellyfish. Yeah.
Yeah, so the title gives it away right away.
But it fooled me because initially I said it's the one at the beach. So I kept looking for the one at the beach. But when I got to that at the last episode of the season, and I was like, this is the recap.
Yeah.
Like, this is him going through what just happened.
Like, what's going on, and I don't really know what happened with that. And then this happened, but I don't really know what happened with that. I'm going to find Chandler.
I got to go to Chandler, yeah.
So, yeah. I think I've been better than you. Yeah, we need to do that. You're correct. We need to do that at the end of every episode, as long as we're not recording more than one per night. And luckily for our audience, we're not recording more than one night. So
we're not.
So that's why I was thinking, like, people have listened to us, and hopefully they enjoy us. You know, we've had some comments on YouTube and Spotify, so I think we're well liked. And they're probably thinking, like, well, are these guys done after one episode? Well, here's your episode 2. Yeah. But then I was thinking, like years down the road, once we've done all these and we got all 10 seasons done, people that are listening to it for the first time, they're not going to have to wait as long as these people, our true fans, had to wait.
We're going to be able to be binged.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to binge our podcast.
Yeah, they're just binge our podcast, but our number one, hopefully our number one fans. But our day one fans, they didn't get that. They didn't get that glory, and for that we do apologize. This will be our longest break. I really feel this. But,
I think it will too. That was a while.
For you new listeners that have already seen that we've done all whatever episodes, 200 episodes it is, just flash to the next one. You're there. All right. Well, we will get you. We'll get you next time. You know we got to have the play out song. I'll find a new play-out song, but I just love this song so much that it's got to be it. So, sue me, and we might.
we might get sued. Yeah,
because it is very, very on it. So, but we really appreciate you guys stopping by. The one with the sonogram. There we go. So we'll hit season 1, episode 3 next. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm Jay Chadwell. Calvin with me as always. We'll see you next time.